probably introduce you. Hey everyone,
Yes, late.
I'm Thomas Elliott. This is Brian Patrick O'Toole, a producer and screenwriter of uh, horror films and some other genres as well. You produced Dog Soldiers and wrote Evilution and Basement Jack, among other films. And something that I noticed in a few of your films is that there's a number of military characters or characters with military backgrounds. And so I was wondering, do you have a military background?
Oh no, no. But I have the highest respect. I have quite a few friends that did the military, and I have nothing but the highest respect for those guys. And I want to represent them, you know, as the heroes that they are. So none of the soldiers or military people are, you know, the bad guys for the most part.
Yeah. Some of the characters in Dog Soldiers do take some rather questionable actions, but uh, I noticed it was the like commanding officer rather than the grunts, um, which is a theme that I've noticed in uh, media created by people who are fans of the military like that. Um, so something that I notice in horror movies is that a large part of whether or not I enjoy the movie is based on how strong my feelings are about the main characters. Um, and they don't have to be positive feelings necessarily.
Right.
They can be really like as long as I love or hate them, then I'm going to enjoy the movie. If I'm lukewarm about them, then I'm not. Um, and I noticed that in the movies that of yours that you wrote, you do a pretty good job of taking characters archetypes who would sometimes be less sympathetic and making them more interesting, such as the gangsters in Evolution or the cops in Basement Jack. So I was wondering, what tips do you have for writers to make characters that evoke strong emotion like that and still come across as genuine people?
I wish I had a magic formula. I'd write a book. But the truth of the matter is that I was lucky to get some great actors. I mean, as a
Mm,
writer, there's only so much you can put on the page, and you don't want to direct from the page, you know.
what do you mean?
Um, well, you don't want to, I know a lot of new writers will write, Mr. Jones walks with a attitude, um, maybe that, but maybe the actor will see it differently. You don't want to put the actor in a box and say, you got to do it this way. In fact, I think one of my weaknesses is dialogue. Um, I have a problem with it. So I always, at the table reading, I say, this is what needs to be said. This is to 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 further the character, because you never tell story in dialogue. You should always be able to turn any movie off, the sound off, and know exactly what's going on, because the dialogue should only ever further character, should never tell the story.
Interesting.
So what you want to do then, so I leave it to the actors at the table read. I say, change whatever you want, but you have to get this message with the dialogue. So for the most part, I try to give them freedom, because I have I want to say impromptu. I have what is the word? I drew blank. Improv. Yeah. An improv background. I was in the Second City in Chicago back a long time ago, and I took it because not that I wanted to act, but because I wanted to be to feel more confident in when I present things and stuff, because I ended up literally becoming a literary agent. And that means you have to go pitch stories to people, and so I want to just get confident. So improv training really helped me to get to get the guts to get up there. But it's never been easy because like the first time I went to pitch a bunch of scripts, what you do is you have your clients and then you have these cards and it's basically the title, the author, and a log line. A great white shark terrorizes it. Then you pitch to the executive and then they go, yeah, I'll read that. That sounds interesting. Oh no, I'm not interested. So one of my first experiences was an executive at Universal Studios. And I went into her office. She accepted a few scripts, read them. And I went in to talk to him. And she took the script and she shakes it in my face. She just shakes it. And I'm like, she goes, do you know what's wrong with this script? Do you know what's wrong with it? And I'm like, no. She goes, the brads are too small. She goes, when I open the script, the brads pop out. And so I walked out. I literally got up and walked out. I'm like, this woman's crazy. So I get back to the agency and Leslie's like, did you walk out of the executive's office? And I'm like, well, yeah, she's crazy. And you never do that. You never do that. You need to call her immediately and apologize. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Got any other suggestions? And so anyway, I ended up having to call her, or it was my job. And she was very complimentary. She said, she just took a lot of guts to do that. She goes, I was just having a bad day. But yeah, don't walk out of people's offices. So I'm like, okay. So that was my trial by fire.
What are the brads?
Oh, they're the little they're clips that has 3-hole punch on the script, and then you poke the brad through and you open it up.
Oh.
And so those are called brads. And so yeah.
All
there's
right.
certain lengths. And I don't like to use long ones because I stab myself. So I guess I was using too small. I don't know.
Okay.
But that just shows how old I am because nobody reads scripts. It's all on their laptops now. Yeah, send me the PDF. So that's a story from a bygone time.
Yeah. I like your emphasis on your improvisation background. Have you read the book Impro by Keith Johnstone?
No. When you read for a living, you rarely get to read anything for pleasure.
That's fair. I read that book less for pleasure and more to develop skills. But
yeah,
for any listeners out here, it's a pretty short book, and it's really just a few chapters in it are especially good for developing interesting character dynamics between multiple different characters, especially. You mentioned how you shouldn't tell the story through dialogue, and that reminds me of one of the movies I was about to, or that I would like to ask you about, and your thoughts on it, and specifically the evolution of low-budget filmmaking, independent cinema over the years. Back in the days of like Ed Wood and John Waters, needed huge film cameras and enormous reels of film, all of which was very expensive. Even if you were scrimping and saving on actors and sets and stuff, that was an unavoidable expense that made filmmaking out of the reach of a lot of ordinary people. Then with the invention of the VHS and shot on video and released on video films, starting with Sledgehammer in 1983, things became much more in the reach of ordinary people, although the quality of the physical medium was clearly a lot worse than with film. But nowadays, digital cameras are ubiquitous, and cell phones even have gotten to have, cameras on them that are better than any VHS. And so with the release of films like Tangerine in 2015, which was shot entirely on an iPhone, things have gotten extremely in the reach of ordinary people. And now, and here's the one that the talking about the dialogue reminded me of, with the release of movies like Host in 2020, which was filmed entirely on a video conference like this, and so performed almost completely through dialogue. Um, I'm curious both what you think of movies like that, like Host specifically, and where you think low budget independent cinema is going in the future.
Well, Host was not a movie. Host was a filmed play. And that's
Okay.
what I'm going to say about that, is that it's basically people talking at you in boxes. So it's Hollywood Square for the
It's
elite.
it's a table reading.
Yeah, it's exactly it. That's all it was to me. That's all it was a table reading. Um, and I have a friend who did during the whole lockdown. He used to do a drag show in Los Angeles, and obviously they couldn't. And they did it underneath a Mexican restaurant. It's Casa de something. I can't remember offhand, but they used to do all these shows. Well, they couldn't do them anymore, so they took it on air. And you know what? It's just not the same. I mean, you can't do live theater in the square, in my opinion. It's just it doesn't work. It's like you said, it's a table reading. I have a friend, but back to it. Um, Filmmakers today are so lucky, and I don't think they realize, because when I started, um, don't do the math, but in 1990, when I went
Several
to
years
LA,
ago.
yeah, several years ago, when I went to LA, it was still the usual distribution routes. It was going to theaters, then to pay television. You know, there was none of this DVD or anything, because DVD I don't think came out till 97. So basically what I had to do, so I learned, I was there for the death of camera. In fact, Cemetery Gates was my first film. I'm going to jump all over the place, so feel free to. But
Go right ahead.
Cemetery Gates was my last film doing film,
Okay.
and
Last
I
one shot
mean,
on film.
Cemetery Gates looks so much better than it has any right to look. We had, and his name escapes me. I'm really bad at names. He was the cinematographer on Deadwood, the HBO series. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. But so he gave me a great film. Anyway, during that film, the lab screwed up the last reel. It fell into the vat of chemicals.
Oh
So we had to
man.
reshoot the whole ending of that film again.
Oh wow.
I mean, it was covered by insurance. Always get insurance. But it was covered. It was covered. But when you watch the movie, you can see the lead character's Peter Stickles. His hair is quite a bit longer than the rest of the movie. But these are the things that you have to deal with film. I have a friend, Brian, who did a whole film on his phone called "Be Like Trees." It's on YouTube, which is another thing. It's like, you used to have to go to all these distribution centers and hope that a distributor would pick you up. Now you can just throw your film online. In fact, executives now, they go to IMDb, or they go to look you up. It's like, it's just become that centralized. But the point I'm getting to, and I'm getting to a point, is that, anybody with 10 friends can do a zombie movie now, like with their camera. The problem is that people like me have to, who's an independent producer, has to compete with these films. So I think the market is sort of weeding itself out now, whereas they're demanding certain quality from these homemade films. But that's where film began, in people's garages. I mean, so I love watching the stuff that's coming out today. The only thing I don't get is TikTok. I mean, who are all these skinny kids that look like they've been stung by 100 bees, jumping up and down, showing us what religion they are in their sweatpants? I mean, I don't get it. Like, those getting like the highest ratings, and like, oh well. But hopefully, from that, a new genre will grow. I mean, I love creativity, and I'm just really excited by what's happening today. I mean, I helped make a film with some friends in England. I never left my bedroom. They sent me footage, looked at it, edited it, sent it back. I couldn't imagine that 20 years ago. So did
Yeah.
that answer your question? What was the question?
I was wondering what you think is next in low budget independent films. Like how you think the medium is going to change in the future, given what we've already seen of it. And it sounded like what you were saying about that is that because of the explosion of accessibility right now, there was a while where people were sort of, there wasn't a lot of quality control going on.
Right. Yeah.
And you think that it's being weeded out a bit and people are becoming more demanding?
Well, no, I mean, I'll speak mostly to horror in that horror audiences, as long as you're honest with them, are very forgiving. Like they know you're on a budget. They know that the vampire teeth are, chiclets, carved chiclets. So they'll cut you a break as long as you're honest with your story and it's entertaining. Um, and I think things are going back to traditional, scares. I mean, there's so many found footage films because they're really easy to make. Basically, it's like you with your camera doing a whole Blair Witch thing. Um, but some of these kids that I'm watching really have a sense of style, and that's what you do. I mean, people hate me for this, but it's like I tell people, they go, "Oh, I want to go to UCLA and go to film school," and I'm like, "No, no, no, no. You take that money and you buy yourself a camera and some lighting, because with digital you need so much lighting, and you develop your style because they can't teach you that in school. They can't teach you style. They can introduce you to people maybe, but you have to develop your own style." So I always tell that. And then when I was teaching, at seminars and stuff, screenwriting, I would tell screenwriters, none of you will ever sell an original screenplay. Oh, people lost their minds. You could just see their heads exploding. Wait, my parents paid a lot of money for me to be here, which is true. It's been 30 years. No one has come up to me and gone, "Hey, you were wrong. I sold, these scripts." Nobody has ever done that. But the producers will always have better ideas than anyone else, but they don't have time to write their great ideas. So they're going to go to the necessary evil, which is a writer. So it's best to write and have a script in every genre as a calling card. And that's how you get work. I mean, I wrote like 30 scripts. I mean, I've made 12 movies, but I was hired to write so many scripts, and script doctoring. So I made a lot of money just doing that. But I ended up producing my own films because it's the studios are nuts. I'm so thankful that I never worked in the studio system. I'm telling you, you got 500 people on set, and you're like, "Are any of you actors are working on the camera? I mean, who's my crew?" Because it's they gotta, and then they all have to have their input, whether it's necessary or not. They have to have their input, and so they give you notes, and it's like no. So I've been very thankful, and maybe my films aren't the Citizen Kane of films, but of horror films, but they're honest and people seem to love them. So I'm happy.
Yeah, to get to that Citizen Kane level, you really need more parrot-based jump scares.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's genre expectations. That's just a given.
Oh,
Um,
I
but
was just making a joke about the jump scare
oh,
with a parrot in the middle of Citizen Kane. Do you
yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
Okay.
I know I was going to add on to your joke. Now I
Oh,
forgot. I have
oh,
a
I'm
mind like
sorry.
Teflon, nothing sticks.
Uh,
Um,
you were
I
talking
forgot
about
what
genre expectations.
yeah, just the genre expectations. But I mean, the Citizen Kane of horror films is The Exorcist or Night of the Living Dead. It's something that moved the genre forward. the slasher movies, Black Christmas, and then came Halloween, and then came Friday the 13th, and um, so to me, those are the Citizen Kanes. If you could start a new genre, the whole Paranormal Activity, which in my opinion is just lazy filmmaking. I mean, I can just point a camera at a wall and let your imagination go wild. Wait, did something move? You're so desperate for something to happen, your mind plays tricks. Wait, was it a cat? What was that? But I love, but there's always the diehards. Like, I love creature features. I love creature features. I love monsters, and just, because at the core, they're us. A good monster is, you're sympathetic to it. Frankenstein did not ask to be reborn. Frankenstein's monster, sorry.
Yeah.
Did not ask to be reborn. Dracula was just so mad at God for killing his wife that he got cursed. Godzilla couldn't help that they put buildings up where he used to live. That was his pad. So, so you got to make sure in these movies that your monster there's a good backstory, and that's another thing that I used to teach a lot of people. Like, for example, when I did a film called Sleep Stalker, the Sandman is a serial killer who dies and comes back, and but the writers, didn't have a backstory for him. They just had a bunch of kills. And I was like, you can't do that, because, if I say, what are 3 ways that you can kill Dracula? Well, sunlight, stake through the heart, cutting its head off. What are 3 things? Or so there's rules, and you can't break the rules unless you establish the rules. And that's what I think a lot of these zombie films lately are just not working. Because people go, oh well, 28 days later they ran. Well, they weren't zombies; they were infected. It's those arguments. But I think when people are writing horror, they forget that part. They forget that your monster has to be, it could be as evil as, but it has to be sympathetic. I mean, look at The Omen. It's just a cherub little boy. How could he do any harm? And so, and then wait a minute, get off that tricycle. What are you doing? So anyway, that's my spiel on characters.
I completely agree about monsters needing to have rules and an interesting backstory. And I find that sometimes I would say that those are good rules for writing. And sometimes you can make a really memorable story by clearly and distinctly breaking some rule for writing. And so what comes to mind for that is Halloween, where Michael Myers doesn't really have much in the, like, there's the opening scene where you see him murder his family as a small child, but you don't know why. And he doesn't really have a motive, and the rules as to how his unkillable being unkillable works vary from movie to movie. It's not consistent. And so, but that was really successful and people really love it. And
go ahead.
I was going to say,
no, go on.
No,
there's a bit of a delay, so I'm just sorry.
No worries.
No, I was just going to say, with Halloween, there's exceptions to every rule. I always like that student that comes up to me and goes, well, what about this? Yeah, well, what about it? When you get to be David Cronenberg, you can make those changes. Until then, you don't want to rock the boat. But Halloween, the thing about it, I don't want to talk about the travesty that is this new money grab trilogy that's just horrible. And Jamie Lee Curtis should be ashamed of herself. But the original Halloween, there's another thing that horror films have to have that film did very well, and that is what I call the Van Helsing character. The character that knows more than all the other characters in the movie, and usually comes to save the day. And Dr. Loomis he gave us the backstory. He gave us all that. I knew the little boy. I
Yeah.
spent the rest of the time trying to keep him locked up because there was nothing in his eyes. He was possessed. And so, again, sticking with the original film, is that he had become the embodiment of the boogeyman. I mean, he got shot 6 times and got up. Well, there's something not human. And in the second movie, he got shot in the eyes, and so there was a mystique about it. There's a mystery, and I think that's why Michael Myers is such a beloved character, because it's like you can't reason with him. You can't talk him down. Like Freddy Krueger, he's like the Henny Youngman of slashers. He's just gag after gag. But the original movie, he was a force to reckon with. He got you at your most vulnerable, which is another aspect of horror films, which is in your dreams, you're sleeping. That should be your good time where you can be a pirate. Nobody arrests you. Um, but yeah, so Freddy, yeah, so that's very important, and I think a lot of these reboots, like these remakes, they're just missing the point. These movies are creatures of their time. For example, the money grab Halloween in the first film. We could spend a whole show on just tearing that film apart, but
Are you talking about the 2018 one or the Rob
yeah,
Zombie?
the one that I don't want to talk about. Um,
Kind of seems like you want to talk about it.
I do want to talk about, because it made me so mad. But
I actually liked that one.
no, you didn't, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
No, but the thing is that there was one scene, but the whole film was written by stoners for stoners. Don't get me wrong. That's what happened, because all it is throwbacks to a series of films that it doesn't want to acknowledge. They're saying, "Oh, these are sequels to the first movie, the original movie." The other movies didn't exist, but then they keep referring to them. Like, I heard Michael Myers was Laurie Strode's brother. Oh no, they just made that up. And then there's another part where in the second movie, which, okay, they bring on the 3 masks from Halloween 3.
Yes.
Are you a fan of South Park?
Yeah,
Okay, so do you remember the episode about the member berries?
I do.
Like, remember this? Remember this? That's
Yes.
all those movies are. Remember this? Remember this character? Remember this? But it's not furthering the mystique of Michael Myers, is it?
I see what you mean. I think that I did enjoy the 2018 Halloween, and then I thought that the sequel to that one, Halloween Kills, was very silly. And I think if I can, I'd like to say why I liked the
Sure, go ahead. I'll give you 2 minutes. Go. No.
It's because yeah, you're right. It didn't further the mystique of Michael Myers himself, but instead it was much more focused on Laurie Strode and and her trauma and how she was clearly not moving past this at all, much less in a healthy way. And that I thought that was an interesting sort of meta commentary on the fact that the series is not moving past this. We're still getting Halloween movies 40 years later. There's a line, I can't remember if it's in the 2018 Halloween or in Halloween Kills, where they're talking about the fact that there were these murders 40 years ago. And some teenager is like, yeah, there were like three people got killed 40 years ago. More people than that get killed by car accidents every week here, and just like regular murders every year. Why is this such a big deal? And that was why the 2018 Halloween worked for me and Halloween Kills did not, because having the one character who was so intimately connected with the murders be unable to move past it makes sense to me, and it's an interesting character piece. But then having the entire town be unable to move past it and still be obsessed with these murders does not make sense to me, because on the scale of an entire town, it's really not that big, but on the scale of an individual, it is. Um, and so another trope that I really like in horror movies is when nobody takes the person who knows about the horror seriously.
Mhm.
So one of the reasons I really enjoy the Child's Play series is that there's so much of the horror comes from this, like there's this antagonist that is not actually that physically dangerous compared to just like someone like Michael Myers.
Mhm.
But because no one believes you that the doll is evil, that's what makes it scary. And I thought that Halloween 2018 did a good job with that idea, sort of twisting it where everyone knows that Michael Myers was real, but no one takes it as seriously as Laurie Strode does. And she really does seem to be just like paranoid and overly concerned with it. But then, it turns out to be right because it's a horror movie. Um, so that was what I appreciated about that movie.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion. No, the thing that you just said is what kind of destroyed it for me, is that the film was just so self-aware, and it
Hmm.
was so many, hey, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, first of all, 40 years between, how old is Michael Myers at 40 years
He's like
later?
60 or something.
Right.
I don't know if
I
there's a
mean,
comical answer.
no, there's just, it's senior citizen abuse, the whole thing. It's like, it was unbelievable. I mean, if you're gonna redo it, or then pass the torch, do
Hmm.
something else. Just don't keep putting the same characters in jeopardy. And then with Michael Myers, the one scene where I almost walked out on the movie was, there's a scene in the 2018 where Michael Myers goes in the house, kills a mom, then goes out the front door and leaves a baby crying um in the bassinet. Okay,
Okay.
Michael Myers should have killed the baby. Not that I'm into infantilism or killing babies, but he would not have let his evil doesn't disgrace. It destroys, but it doesn't disgrace. And so it would not have left that child to suffer, like to be alone.
Huh.
He would have sent it to heaven with mom,
Interesting.
because that's evil. He may see him making a conscious decision to let the baby live, takes away from the persona, to
Okay.
me. And when I saw that, I was like, nope, I'm out. You've just totally lost me.
Gotta be honest,
Because
that scene did not stick with me.
yeah, it did. And then the gay couple in the second one,
Hmm.
it's like um the second part, there was no reason to have the gay couple killed. Okay. In fact, they went above and beyond the establishment. So the whole thing about the clown is that it hunts and kills, right? So they throw the gay couple or the gay guy off the bridge, and he floats to the monster to be eaten. And was he a child? No. So
Well, I mean that.
basically,
So sorry.
that's homophobia to me.
Okay.
I thought it was really bad.
I haven't actually seen the second part of
Oh,
the
sorry. Well,
Oh, well, I've read the book and I've seen the miniseries and I saw the first part of the
it's nothing
two-part
like
movie.
those.
Um,
It's
but
pretty bad.
I mean, the book does open with a gay bashing, basically. Uh,
Hmm. And
so,
when was the book written?
good point. I think it was, golly, what was it? The 80s, early 80s.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a different
uh,
time, and the
yeah.
and the and the filmmakers should have been more responsible.
Okay.
I
Um,
just they're not victims. Okay, they're not. It's not victims. There should have been a fight. There should have been something heroic,
Hmm.
and I think that's where a lot of this goes.
Yeah.
It's like they just disguise. It's just one of my pet peeves. It's like, you know, heroes should die heroically if they're going to die at all.
Okay.
And just to have that scene, because like when Chrissy gets killed in Jaws, that propels the story. If those guys didn't get killed, the story would not have changed. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it was just put in there again as a member, Barry. Remember how the book began? You know what I'm saying? It really, when you have an opportunity to make a film, you should make a film that that speaks from your heart. That was the other things, like when I did Atlas Shrugged, which is a revered book by the Republican Party, and it's just
The first half of it is a lot of train porn.
yeah, well, but because it was a creature of its time. Okay, so I mean, so when she wrote that, the biggest um literary was Pulp Fiction. I was a lesbian for the CIA. Those. So she kind of wrote that in that kind of style. The sex in the book is never satisfying. Dagny pretty much gets raped by everybody. Reardon throws her to the couch. Da da da. And then they're guilty about it. Like when they had sex on the train and they just sort of look at each other. It's just like, but when I was hired to do that, I read the book. I had read it before, and I read the book again, and I was like, when you adapt something, you have to find the heart, because people go, oh, the book was better. I hate that. No, this is a different medium. You can't say that. This is the book was your relationship with the writer and your imagination. The movie is somebody's vision sharing it with you. That's the difference. So when I look at adapting something, because I did it for Falling Down too. Well, I'm getting off track. And so when I looked at Atlas Shrugged, which is a huge book, I'm like, what is the core of this story? And that is, it's a woman trying to protect her family business from three factors: an idiot brother who's only in it for the fame and cigars and what he can get.
Yeah.
Two, a government which is giving money to the poor and taking it from the backs of the heroic businessman. Okay, I'll give you that. All right, fine. But then the third thing was that there's this mysterious figure who's spiriting away all the brains of the world, brains of the world,
Allergies.
who are trying to this to an island, so that the world just collapses. And then once the world collapses from the idiots, then they'll come back and save the world. Okay. Yeah. So it by its heart, it's a science fiction novel. It is a what if. Unfortunately, that's not how the movies came out, because the philosophy took over the story. Because you never want to beat somebody over the head with the story. I mean, with the philosophy of the book. You want them to discover it. But you have that whole speech from John Galt.
I was going to say, John Galt, I feel like Ayn Rand really did beat the reader over the head with her philosophy.
Right, but I'm talking about doing a movie now. It's like you want the audience. The reason to do an adaptation is that so they go back to the parent source. Oh, that was good. I'm going to have to read the book, because there's going to be more in it. Yeah. So, so basically movies adapted from something are basically commercials for the original concept. So when we did Atlas Shrugged, so pretty much, it just so many people start coming out of the woodwork. Oh, you have to put this line in. You have to put this line in. You have to do this. We have to have the entire John Galt speech. It's 70 pages of somebody talking on the radio.
Yeah.
No.
That's an entire movie on its own.
Right. So unfortunately, it just, people didn't trust the vision, you know, then they didn't people that saw a movie thought they could make a movie. That's pretty much what happened there. But I learned a lot about adapting. It's like, did you see the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
No, I haven't, but
He
I know
goes
what
through
it is.
he goes through Vegas. Well, he goes through Vegas. He goes through
Las
LA,
Vegas.
shooting like ne'er-do-wells and stuff like that. Well, when I was at Warner Brothers, I was working with Howard Kazanjian, who produced Raiders of the Lost Ark and Return of the Jedi. And he had the rights to the book or something. And the book was called Defense, which is actually the license plate on the car in the movie. But anyway, and that was another one where I had to sort of adapt it, you know, to be friendly for a movie. But Warner Brothers took out the heart of the book. And the heart of the book is he was going home to kill his wife. That was the reason why he was doing all of this. In the movie, it's just like he's some kind of hero. And that's not what happened. It was like he was fed up with the world. And so he goes on a killing spree, all to get to his wife to kill her because they're getting a divorce.
Wow.
And that's what I mean. It's like when I worked on what was called Girl Number 9, I think it was released as Point of No Return, but it was the English version of La Femme Nikita.
Oh.
And that was another thing that they took all the nuance out of La Femme Nikita. Like, for example, everything was based on her birthdays, you know, and stuff like that. There was like really all this character study. And that was all thrown out the window. The best example I could give you is in the French movie. You see her set a bomb, da da da, and then there's an explosion, but they really go into her planting the bomb and stuff like that. Not in the American version. Oh no, there's the whole block goes up, you know, and that's the sad part. That's why I'm really scared about this Train to Busan. Did you see Train to Busan?
No, I haven't. It's on the
Oh
list, but
God, you have to see it tonight.
all right.
Tonight.
All right.
But they're making an American version of it. And why? It's perfection. It's almost a near perfect zombie movie. Like it is, and it, you know, now it's called something like Train from New York or something, the American version. And I'm like, you know, it's just, you know, they rush this stuff out. That's part of the problem too. So all these young writers out there, you know, enjoy this time where you have time to sit and write and have your own ideas. Because when you're hired, you got 6 weeks. We want a script in 6 weeks. And we want to see a first draft in 4. You know, it's like, oh, like Evilution. In order to get the money to make that, I literally had 5 days to write it. 5 days.
That's pretty short.
I never want to do that again. I didn't have an idea. I didn't have anything. And I was like, well, let's go back to basics. And basically, the Frankenstein is the first zombie movie. So I was like, well, let me see if I can combine that with, you know, this alien infected movie, you know, and see what we can do. So, yeah. And then Basement Jack, I was writing. And I realized halfway through, I go, oh my God, this is Psycho 2. I'm writing Psycho 2. This is because I had this overlong court case, and it was just like, oh no. So I ditched it and I started from scratch, and I was like, you know, let's and in that movie, the serial killer had a monster mother who used to torture him with electricity. And so I brought that out in his killings. And so when he kills people, he sets them up like in family positions, like at the dinner table or watching television. He kills a little boy and sets him up with his video game, you know, so because he's just looking for the perfect family that he never got because of his mother, you know. And so people seem to respond to that, you know, that they like that, you know. But anyway, next.
Yeah.
I'll go on.
Yeah. That was a lot of interesting things. I want to comment on a few of them. Like
I'll go.
I personally liked the gay couple in Halloween Kills, Big John and Little John. I thought that they were fun, and they did the thing that I was talking about earlier, where the most important thing for a movie, especially a horror movie, is to make you care about the characters. And I cared about those characters. I didn't care about the main characters, but I cared about the side characters. And so it was tragic when Michael killed him instead of just being two more notches on the body count. And I think that was what they were going for. And me,
think about what you just said. Why did they have to die at all? Why couldn't they have helped to bring Michael down?
Because then it wouldn't have been a tragedy.
Well, why did it have to be a tragedy?
Because it's a horror movie? Because a tragedy is a legitimate
why not go above and beyond expectation? I mean, when your lover is killed, you go animal.
Sure.
Okay? And to me, they were gay characters written by a heterosexual. You could just tell. It was horrible. The characters, there was the prissy one, and then there was the, and it's like, no. None of my friends are like that. Are your friends like that? No.
I do have some friends who are pretty prissy.
No, and that's fine, but you know what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
they fell back on stereotypes.
Right.
And I think gay characters have come a lot further than that. I mean, it just, look at Chucky, the TV series. It's a gay character is the protagonist. It's
that's a really good series.
Right, because it goes beyond your expectation, and they don't point and they go, "Oh, gay kid, look at the gay kid." No, where is that? Love Victor on Hulu.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, I want to line up all the actors and just go, pew. Like it's so, but I do that with all characters. It's just like when they go, like the final girl or something, although lately oops, sorry about that. My phone just jumped the shark. It's like, oh, are you telling these stories again? Sorry about that. Okay, you can edit that part out. And okay. So no, but it's like, the final girl characters, that they're getting, better. Although, did you see the new Scream?
I did.
Okay. Where that screwed up was, first of all, the killer, when we saw him, was taller than both those girls or guys or whatever. I'm not giving it away, but they're, it was like, so it didn't match. It was like, oh, wait a minute. When he killed Dewey, he was like 6'9". Come on. It just took me right out of the movie. And then it was such a, again, it was self-aware. Now, to be fair, Scream was a self-aware movie. It had the Van Helsing character, Jamie Kennedy, who knew all the rules and, was trying to warn them. But, so, but this movie was just, who's not going to be in the next one is basically what it was, I don't know. It's just so I've read so many great scripts by new writers. Like I'm working with a writer now, who's just amazing. He's a young kid. He's living in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or New York or somewhere back east. But this is somebody who would not get a break, because he's not, although you don't have to be in Hollywood anymore. And I tell people, I go, don't go to Hollywood. People go, oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood and no, you don't need to. And it's a cesspool. I lived there for 30 years, like on Wilcox and Hollywood Boulevard. I saw everything change in 30 years. And the only fun thing about it is that the rats would climb up the palm trees and they would sit up in the fronds and stuff. And then when the tourists came by and if the wind was just right, it would blow the rats out of the trees and land on the tourists. Oh,
that's amazing.
It was so funny. I would laugh. You have your popcorn and you just wait. Sometimes you'd hear the scream and then they go, oh, I missed it. That rat didn't. but you have to find fun whenever you can, you know. But yeah, Hollywood, yeah. So, and a lot of people are like, you know, can you know, I want to be a writer. I want to, you know, and when I was a literary agent, one of the people that I pitched to was Richard Donner, who was, you know, The Omen, Superman, you
Yeah.
know, Lethal Weapon. Um, and I made the mistake as I was leaving. I was like, hey, do you have any thoughts to somebody who's just starting out in Hollywood? And he looked at me dead serious. He goes, if you're good at something else, do that.
All
And I'm
right.
glad he said that to me because it made me so mad. And then I was just like, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I'm gonna prove that man wrong. And that really put the fire under me. Um, but yeah, it's tough. But like I said in the beginning of this conversation, although it was that basically you can make a movie now with just your phone, and that to me is amazing. Like you know, and I'm always thinking of ideas. But and the nice thing too is that there's so many avenues. There's Shudder and Tubi and there's I'm drawing a blank, but
Amazon,
there's like so many
Amazon accept
horror
anything.
side. Yeah, that you know, and they're all those monsters have to be fed. So it's like go and do it. Do your film, you know? Who cares if it doesn't look real? It's not real. You know, it's like, you know, and I always would recommend like there's a film from the 30s called Vampire. Um the things that they did with shadows haunt you to this day. And I'm like, I want to do a film like that. Like I just atmospheric, the old German expressionism. And you know, just want to do a big, scary film, you know, not some bimbos and himbos running in the sand and then the sand monster pulls them down. Oh, well, okay. You know,
I saw a movie with that exact premise not that long ago.
well, there's been a bunch. Blood Beach, The Sand.
Yeah.
Even Creepshow 2 had a story
I think it was
uh,
the sand that I
on
want.
the raft
Yeah.
with the big black slime.
Um,
I didn't mean to insult you. I mean, if you like the Halloween movie, well, you know,
uh,
we can put you away.
I have a tendency to enjoy nearly everything and be able to find something good in whatever I'm watching. I think the only movie I've seen at all recently where I just couldn't find any redeeming features in it, in my opinion, was Annabelle.
Mm,
Have you seen that one?
yeah. Yeah. Well, that was a cash in and basically I think it was they tried to separate themselves from the real story too much.
Yeah.
Like the real story is scary as hell. If they would have used the original Raggedy Ann doll, I mean, that's what's scary because it's real. Annabelle looks like she was made to scare. Like
Yes, and that's
there's nothing charming or innocent about it because that's the thing about evil. Evil corrupts. And when evil corrupts a child, that's why The Exorcist is able to do so well, is because that was a very charming little girl. And then the monster that it becomes, I mean, it creeps into your psyche. Like, so that's why that film lasts because it got it right. But Annabelle, it was like, you know, I mean, Annabelle creation was okay. Um, they seemed to get better as they went, but the whole what are those ghost chasers or something like that? I mean,
the
they're
Conjuring universe people.
yeah. It's like it was already debunked that they were frauds. You know, I what I would have done is I would have made them somebody else, not the real characters, because then I think those movies would have worked a lot better. Um, I like The Conjuring. I think Conjuring 2, I was more interested in the Amityville house at the beginning than, you know, the English kid, because I spent some time in England and all the kids are like that. They're little monsters. And
I've seen The Conjuring, but I haven't seen The Conjuring 2. And
oh,
Honestly, at this point, I think I just don't like James Wan movies. Like Saw is okay.
Yeah.
Aquaman is a relatively fun superhero movie, but Dead Silence, not a fan. The Conjuring, meh.
Well,
Annabelle,
that's what
really not
happens
a fan.
is that the studios get somebody who's hot and then they just work them to death. And then the movies start to fall off in quality because they don't get to spend the time that they did on their earlier movies.
Hmm.
So that's, the problem. That's why I always use first timers. I try to, because one, they're cheap and I'm a producer, so save some money.
Yeah.
But they're willing to work, and they're not tainted yet. I've worked with a director who was just like roll, roll. It's like, I'm sorry you're jaded. I hope I never get like that. I mean, I go on a film set, I'm going, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then I have to go do the books. But it's fun, and we're so lucky to be in this industry. And so when I see these people just not enjoying it or just taking advantage of it, I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are to be able to do this. People dream of this, so
Yeah.
I've been lucky. For except for two, which I won't name because that would be impolite. Um, I think I enjoyed all of my directors and actors, and because
Good.
they were getting their chance.
Yeah. You mentioned liking more active and heroic protagonists rather than just sympathetic ones. And so I was wondering if you've seen the 2021 remake of or pseudo remake of Slumber Party Massacre.
I didn't. It wasn't that. Didn't that go straight to Netflix or something?
I thought it was on Shudder, but
I don't have Shutter. I'm gonna get it, but
oh man,
I have
I
such
like
a
Shudder.
backlog of stuff, and then when I finally do watch something
So do
like that, Texas Chainsaw Millennials on Netflix,
that one wasn't very good.
and they stole the plot line from Halloween 2018.
Yeah. Um Slumber
What?
Party the Slumber Party Massacre pseudo remake is I think again has similarities with those movies that you mentioned, the new Texas Chainsaw and the new Halloween. Uh I think it's better than either of them, and it definitely has more active protagonists. And there's, and I guess that's a little bit of revealing of the
Well, the
twist.
way it should be. I mean, I can count good reboots on one hand, well, on one finger. I mean, Hills Have Eyes, that was a good remake, a reboot. I walked out of. I've only walked out of two films in my life. One was Saturday Night Fever, oh,
Okay.
and two was the Friday the 13th reboot, because they had strayed so far from the material that it was
Yeah.
like you could have put any serial killer there.
Yeah. I thought,
Jason doesn't keep girls.
yeah.
He's driven by revenge. He saw his mother killed. I mean, we know that backstory, and they didn't change the backstory for me to care about. So they were just like, well, we have this script, just throw Friday the 13th on
It did
it.
feel like that, where it was, it would have been a fine, just sort of other slasher movie, but it didn't seem like a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, wasn't.
Um, and on the subject of more active and gay characters and gay characters written by gay people, have you heard of the upcoming Peacock exclusive film They/Them?
I've heard of it. I think I saw a trailer.
I've only seen promotional stills from it, but I'm certainly interested. For anyone listening who has not heard of this, this is a slasher movie set at a gay conversion camp. So I do predict that a lot of gay characters will get killed in it, just because all of the characters other than the camp counselors are gay or trans or something like that, because they're at this conversion camp.
Who's the audience for that?
Uh, sure looks like it's young queer people. That's who I've seen talking about it, and that's who it's starring. Um,
See, here's the thing about that too, is that if you're making a film for a particular audience,
mhm.
you are almost sure to fail
Oh,
because it's because you're leaving out a whole bunch of other people. For example, when somebody's writing a script, they and I read John, a black male. Okay, why does he have to be black? How does it propel the story that why that he has to be black? Because what if an Asian female comes in and reads that part and she's perfect for it? So when you do that, when you put stuff like that, or a gay guy, you know, why does he have to be gay? Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be included in films and stuff, but why? Why? You can't do characterization by personality. That's lazy writing, you
okay.
know. And again, this isn't book writing. This isn't, poetry. This is screenwriting, and there's going to be 100 other people involved in this. So you're basically just drawing up the blueprint. You're the architect, okay? But then the director comes in, and everyone else comes in, and they add their 2 points and 10 points, and to build a better thing. That's why I kind of don't like a film by, because it's not a film by. It's a film by everybody at the end. You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds really, and I have deep respect for directors. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, when they say it's blanks, I mean, very few people have earned that. Like George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, he earned that.
Neil Breen.
But or John Carpenter's Halloween, well, he earned that. John Carpenter's The Thing. But then when they start slapping the names on movies like Wes Craven presents Dracula 2000, what did you do? Hey, do you want your name on a Dracula movie? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like, it's
That's
irritating to me.
that's
So
interesting.
that, go on.
I would have guessed sort of the other way around, because to me, presents doesn't sound to me like they're claiming the entirety of the credit for it. It sounds to me like they're saying, "Hey, check out this thing that they didn't necessarily have anything to do with, as they just want to get your attention to, direct your
Oh,
attention to,
Thomas, come here.
like
Let me hold you for a
like a
minute.
carnival barker is
No,
how I read
here's
that.
what they're doing. The Miramax is going, we have a turd on our hands, and we need to have an extra little bit of marketing that we can do with this. So go call John Carpenter, see if you'll put his name on this. And then they pay him a lot of money, and they do. And that's how it works. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I know that.
I really appreciate that you think there's a noble side to all of this, and I want to just like bathe in your waters and absorb your energy, but I've been through this too much. That's not, they're just, they have a turd and they got to try to sell it some way. So it's, yeah, but I mean, I see your point. I'm being funny, but it's
and
that's not how the world works. That's not how Hollywood works.
I was also surprised that you said that like John Carpenter's The Thing works for you, because that I would say is very much a movie that's a, a collaborative effort. That like the special effects in that and the performances in that are so much more important than just the story or uh, even the direction of it, I think, in contrast with Halloween, where so much of what's good about Halloween is like those shots with Michael Myers in the background and stuff like that, which is very much the director and the cinematographer. But The Thing, if it didn't have those incredible practical effects going on, I
Yeah,
think,
Rob Bottin. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Thomas. You look very young.
Well, I
Did
think
you see The Thing in theaters or on home video?
home video.
Okay. I saw it when it came out in 82. And it didn't have John Carpenter's The Thing on it. It just was The Thing. And it
Oh,
bombed
I did.
because it was the same summer E.T. came out.
Yes. Okay.
And and Universal went, wait a minute. We got a nice alien who's giving us money. We got this icky monster that's not giving us money. So let's clear the theaters of the icky monster and put in our cute monster and make more money. So after a while, when John Carpenter's name became synonymous with, these horror films, then they slapped John Carpenter's The Thing. I think, I may be wrong, but I think that in the opening credits, when the letters appear in the light, I think it may have said John Carpenter's The Thing. But I think they had to do that because Warner Brothers owned the original Thing movie from the 50s. And so in order to get the story rights or something, they had to separate it. I don't know. There's a whole story behind it, I'm sure. But again, it's marketing. But what I'm trying to say by that is that few directors have earned the right to have their names above the title. George Romero's one, John Carpenter's one.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
so when I see something like, Blank's, movie, I'm like, well, I don't know who you are. And I know there was a lot of other people that made that movie. So, that's just my own, I mean, I understand it's tradition and it's like that. And, but that's why I also don't have like opening credits in films. You might have noticed that. I think Basement Jack has opening credits, and it's only because I think opening credits are to separate time. So you have a prologue, like Friday the 13th, you have 1956 at Crystal Lake, and then they get killed, and then they go into the credits, and then we go into modern day. I like those credits,
Yeah.
but as far as like
That
anything
is.
else, if
Um,
it's same time frame, just get to the movie. It's so aggravating to be watching a movie, the narrative, and then all these names keep popping up, and then what was that movie I just saw where literally 10 minutes into the movie they're still showing names?
oh man, I saw some movie recently that it's forgetting. I'm forgetting it now, but they did the title drop and stuff like that, like half an hour into the movie, to the point where when it happened, I was like, "What?" I thought they just weren't going to do it. Um, but talking about like auteur directors getting the so and so's title, um, I just checked, and the way that they did it with The Thing is it says John Carpenter's, and then that fades out, and then The Thing appears.
Okay.
Um, and the other one that I'm wondering if you think would qualify for this is Clive Barker's Hellraiser. Because it's
Yeah, but that's marketing
road.
because Hellraiser alone, people go, what? Who? What? But Clive Barker at the time, again, was his Book of Blood was like #1 film or something, or book or something.
Yeah.
Like, so that's a marketing tool.
Although actually on the original release, it was just Hellraiser. And then it was on, I think on the DVD release where it was Clive Barker's Hellraiser.
Because the movie didn't do well. It didn't theatrically in its first run. This is why they're called cult movies.
Yeah.
Because, it's like it took a while for the audience to find it.
Yeah. I love Hellraiser though. It's great.
Yeah, they're great. Well, until he went to space. The only time that worked was Jason X. I thought Jason X was amazing. It
Oh yeah.
was campy and terrible and horrible, and I loved every second of it.
What about a Leprechaun in space?
Yeah, first he went. How did he go from the hood to space?
And then back to the hood.
Yeah, I have all the films. I have to
Yeah.
marathon it someday.
Leprechaun was the first horror series I really got into. And indeed, marathoning them all at a friend's birthday party, it was a formative experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Now the new one, Leprechaun Reborn.
I haven't seen that one.
It's horrible.
I'm not sure.
Horrible.
I
It's like they didn't get it. They don't get it. That's the whole thing. That's my whole whine for today. You don't get it. You don't understand. I mean, I can understand cash grabs because I was lucky enough I got to work with George Romero, and I talked to him about the Night of the Living Dead remake, and he was very open about it because we never got paid from the first movie, so we did the second movie and to get paid.
Talking about the 90s one?
Yeah, the Tom Savini one.
Right.
Funny story about that. You got 2 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I went to the premiere of that because Night of the Living Dead is one of my favorite films. So I wanted to see the other one. So I'm at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and I sit down, and nobody sits next to me. And I love that because I'm like, oh, I hate when people sit next to me. Lights go down, the movie starts, somebody sits down next to me. And I'm like, oh. But anyway, so I must have been making a lot of noises through the movie because I'm like, oh God, oh no, and stuff like that. So anyway, movie ends, and lights go up, people leave, but the guy next to me is not leaving. And I'm like, oh no. What is this going to be? And then he turns to me and he goes, so how'd you like the movie? And being a flippant asshole like I am, I went, well, I thought they ruined it when they colored the first one, but this was pretty bad. And he goes, oh, you didn't like it? I go, no. And I kind of went into why I didn't like it because I believe in creative criticism. I don't believe in just saying that sucks and leave. So anyway, he goes, okay. And he leaves. So I wait a couple of minutes and then I go into the lobby. And in the lobby is Tom Savini, Patricia Tallman, who played Barbara, the guy that sat next to me, the guy that played Harry in the movie and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I hear, Brian. I'm looking around. It was Brian, come here. And it's the guy that was sitting next to me. The guy sitting next to me was the guy that played Tom. But he had longer hair, so I didn't recognize him. So he goes, tell Tom what you thought of the movie. And I was like, oh, I really liked it. I got it. He goes, no. You tell him what you said. And so I said, well, I thought they ruined it when they colorized the first one. And he's like, Tom Savini starts going into this, I had to deliver an R-rated movie. I wanted to do this, and I'm like, oh my God, I felt so bad. So this is how deep my Irish Catholic guilt is. I hired Tom Savini to be in Cemetery Gates to play the father. In fact, in the storyboards, we drew Tom Savini in it, but he got a job, and so we ended up getting Reggie Bannister. But anyway, and then I hired Patricia Tallman for Atlas Shrugged Part 2 because I just felt so bad after all these years of downing their movie. And I have to be honest, in the years, I've come to appreciate it for what it is. But it's, Rambo Barbara was just, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Speaking of Cemetery Gates, do you know where I can stream that? Because I haven't been able to find it.
Yeah. I know Amazon had it on Amazon Prime. It comes and goes. That's a whole nother show, is like where the rights to all these films are going. Because I never own my own material. I always take a paycheck. And that's another tip from me to you, people. Always get a paycheck. Don't take back end. You'll never see it. You'll never see it because the distributor has to be paid and the video people have to be paid. And by the time, unless you're doing a Marvel movie, you ain't seeing nothing. So get your money up front. So that's why I don't own any of the rights, even the ones I wrote. I sold them to the production company.
Oh,
So I
wow.
could take my fee out of the budget rather than wait till the movie makes money because my landlord doesn't understand that. It's like,
Well,
see,
that
I made this movie, and when it makes billions of dollars, I'm going to be able to pay you all this back rent. And they're like, no, that he who signs a lease pays the rent. So I always always took money up front.
all right.
And except for maybe Dog Soldiers, I was pretty correct in doing that because I don't think all my films have made their money back. Plus, I can honestly say that, but none of them have been, Doctor
Smash
Strange.
runaway hits. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even Dog Soldiers, it's 20 years now, and it's still finding audience, which I'm very grateful because that film was hard to make. So, yeah,
So,
so I'm glad. Go on. Sorry.
well, I had a question, but now I'm interested if you wanted to talk about how it was hard to make. Oh,
No, I have PTSD.
oh no. Okay,
Do you know why I have PTSD? Because it's the 20th anniversary. No one's doing anything, but somebody wrote this crappy book. Can you see?
uh, I could very briefly. Sausages, the art of making something, and I see a werewolf.
Yeah, the art of making dog soldiers.
Oh,
So it must be unauthorized because they shouldn't have done this. It's such a love letter to the director,
uh,
and you know, and it's so the writer writes, if you are reading this hoping for controversy, conspiracy theories, backstabbing on the set, I am not sorry to tell you that you will be disappointed. There was none of that. What you see is what you get. A group of people made a brilliant movie who were bloody loving it. Okay, well, the truth of the matter is that's not what happened at all. So it was a tough film. When we first started Kismet, which she misspells in the book, there's so many inaccuracies. I don't even want to start. There's just so much, and you know what? All the pictures are in black and white, and they literally took pictures from the trailer. It's such a. I'm embarrassed for them because the fans deserve better than this. But so obviously she wasn't interested in the truth. She was just writing a love letter to the director. I'm not saying anymore. But
right.
so when we started Kismet, I literally read like 300 scripts trying to find our first movie. And when I was reading for the studios, I was told read the first 10 pages, the middle 10 pages, and the last 10 pages. Because I would have a stack of scripts. They said if there was a nuclear explosion, I would never feel it from all the scripts on the wall. And it's true. So I read, but I being a writer, I broke the rules and I read the scripts. And I never would have found Dog Soldiers had I gone by that rule. Because the opening of the original script, which he was trying to get made for 8 years, was the soldiers at a pub talking about the footy, talking about, and that's not how you start a monster movie. You have to have a hook. You have to get them to shut up and sit down, and then you go into your story. And so, but I saw something in it. And the first draft that I read, I mean, it took its cues from Night of the Living Dead. I mean, literally the plot points were all from Night of the Living Dead. Like for example, in Night of the Living Dead, the zombies are besieging the farmhouse, werewolves besieging the farmhouse. They go to get gas for the Jeep explodes. Same thing happened in Night of the Living Dead. There's parallels. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when I was teaching screenwriting and stuff, I would say what you need to do is you need to find um, a skeleton that the audience can sort of leech onto. Did you see the original movie Mortal Kombat?
Yes.
Do you know what movie that is? Think
Mm,
about it. What's it about?
Uh, is it Enter the Dragon?
No, it's Wizard of Oz. Three
Oh,
friends go to a different world to kill the witch, which is Sam Khan,
Shao.
right?
Yeah.
Shao Kahn, right?
Okay.
The
Interesting.
Lost the Lost Boys is Peter Pan. The lead vampire was trying to get a mother for his boys,
Yeah.
right? So if you can do that in your story, subconsciously weave that in as the backbone, audiences, they may not recognize, like you didn't recognize it, but it was familiar to you because, and then you sort of watched it with this familiarity to it.
Yeah.
So when I pointed out to you, like Alien was every haunted house movie ever, it just was on a big ship. Um, so Dog Soldiers was Night of Living Dead. In fact, there was one point it was called Night of the Werewolves. I mean, took no chances, right? So I had to sit there and convince these people to make this movie. And they were like, well, you said it's like Night of the Living Dead. Why would we want to? I go, right, but this is different. This is something very, very different. And so they were like, and I remember this day like it was yesterday. We were in the fishbowl conference room, and the investor goes, all right, we're gonna green light the movie, but if it fails, it's your job. So I put my job on the line for this movie, and it was our first one. It was like it couldn't suck. So anyway, long story short, it did really, really well in the UK. It was actually the number one film in theaters until Attack of the Clones came out, and Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man came out or something. But in the US, we showed it to the distributors on September 12th, 2001.
Oof.
Yeah.
Rough timing.
Nobody wanted werewolves or soldiers or nothing. In fact, the lady from Sony, her excuse for not taking the movie was, and this is scratched on my soul, is we're going to focus on our Corky Romano franchise. I know, right? Now you know why I'm bitter. So I'm like, anyway, so we ended up selling it to Sci-Fi Channel for like $300,000, and they had it for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was on there a lot, and they were throwing money at us. They were like, "We want a sequel. We want 3 sequels," and the only thing they asked was that it involved American. They wanted some Americans in it. So I wrote a prequel and 2 sequels. But then the director and one of the producers did not get along. Long story short, yeah. So that's why you'll never see a sequel.
Okay.
There's hints at it, but no, you will never see a sequel
So
unless he dies or and gives it away. But and I don't blame him because even in the book, he had to take jabs at the producer. He says that he's the canned spinach tycoon. Well, his family actually owned. They're famous for their canned beans. I mean, this woman, whoever wrote this book, did no research beyond what was on the internet, and we all know how reliable the internet is. So yeah. Anyway, that sounded really bitter, but I don't care.
I definitely thought canned spinach tycoon was some sort of Popeye joke.
No,
Um,
no, it's a terrible. He had a no dicks on set or something. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's why we didn't have any mirrors on the set. Oh no, you did not say that. um, but yeah, it was a tough film to make. That's why when people say to me, oh, I love Dog Soldiers, when people come up to me at conventions and they have a werewolf on their arm or something, and it's like, wow, why would you do that to your body? But it's really a great honor. It's like, wow, or somebody shows me their portfolio of creatures that they made. They go, oh, I saw cemetery gates, and it inspired me, and I want to make monsters and stuff. And that makes everything worthwhile, because you go through a lot of crap, but
That's good.
in the end, when things like that happen, it's all worth it.
So one last question, which is I have more questions, but here's one that you've got me curious about, because you mentioned that you don't get points on the back end for your films. What is your opinion on movie piracy?
I actually suffered from it greatly.
Oh no.
When we did Evilution and Basement Jack back to back. And then actually it was supposed to be a trilogy. And the manager character was supposed to be weaved through it.
Yes.
So we went to the American film market, and I said, please don't give out screeners. If they want to see the movie, don't just hand out screeners. Well, they handed out screeners. And a week before it was supposed to come out on home video, each film had already 10,000 views on some pirate site from Dubai, and you put $10 to each one of them. Now, for an independent filmmaker, that's, and the worst part is somebody left negative comment. Oh, so the movie that you stole, you didn't like it? Sorry. Gosh. But yeah, so piracy, I mean, it's a mixed bag, because Hollywood, and I mean corporate Hollywood, not independent Hollywood, which is what I am. Corporate Hollywood, they can absorb the piracy. They can absorb effort for every, Top Gun. They're making enough money where it really doesn't matter. But for me, people are going to see my movie, and they're probably not going to buy it or rent it again, maybe, or, and so piracy. So that's why we ended up not doing the third movie, because we just didn't make the money back. I mean, we made the money back that made the movie, but we didn't make it back to get profitable. So, but there's the other side of the coin too, is that, like, for example, I buy movies, and when I lived in LA, I had over 10,000, literally 10,000 DVDs, Blu-rays, stuff like that. And when I was moving away from, I digitized, I put them on hard drives, and then, stuff like that. But I've bought them. I feel that's okay to do. Now, streaming services, nobody knows how that works. I've been trying to figure out how it works and how you get paid. Is it per view? And who does it? And believe me, Netflix does not want you looking at their books. No. So,
my understanding is that they're typically a flat fee paid to the owners of the movie, and then the streaming service has it for a certain amount of time. And like, it doesn't matter if 5 people watch it or 5 million people watch it.
Oh, really? Who's doing that deal? Because Amazon only wanted to give us $600.
Well,
and that was a flat fee, $600.
I didn't say anything about the amount of the flat fee, just that I believe it usually is a flat fee.
Yeah, I'm sure they try to get it for cheap, because they're for a while Netflix was the only show in town. Then Amazon happened, and Amazon was the only show in town. And then Paramount and Disney went, wait a minute, we want a plus after our name. So we're only going to have, so what's going to happen now is that it's going to happen what happened with cable TV in the 80s. And it's going to be a tier. If you want Paramount, Disney, Universal, which is Peacock, you're going to have to buy this package. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's all a money gouge. And, people are just going to get fed up. They're just going to go, I want to watch this. Oh, well, you have to subscribe to Hulu. What? But isn't Hulu Disney? And then Disney bought 20th Century Fox. So how come I can't watch Alien? It's like, it's nuts out there now. So right now, I'm focusing on podcast stories. Like, well, you're probably too young for this too, but there used to be a show called the CBS Mystery Theater. It was a radio program every hour. It was hosted by E.G. Marshall, and they were fantastic, scary little stories, you know. And John Carpenter just signed a deal to do those podcasts like that. And I know Shudder, Amazon, Tubi are going to have a podcast channel. So I think that's sort of the future. You know, everything old is new again. So we're going back to the 30s with the old radio shows because people are listening in their cars. Books on tape are doing amazing. Nobody reads anymore. It's scary. It's like, so everything's just talked at them.
If you'd like a recommendation for a fictional podcast like that I quite enjoyed, it's called A Scottish Podcast, and it's a sort of a film within a film, but it's a podcast within a podcast. Of you both listen to the podcast and then you listen to the people around it creating it, and it's it's sort of a comedy horror thing, and it's very well done, very amusing.
Yeah, didn't the Muppets do that?
Do you mean like the Muppet Show?
Yeah, the most recent Muppet Show, wasn't it like a show behind the show? Oh, isn't 30 Rock the same thing?
That's like lots of that was sort of the Muppets.
Yeah, it's a genre.
Is that yeah? I mean, the original Muppet Show was like that.
Yeah, true, but the newest one that only lasted like 6 episodes, they were the Muppet version of 30 Rock. Basically, was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it's low output financially to make these radio shows. Get a nice sound library and some people with good voices, and some good writing. And so I'm going to embark on that. Still trying to get these movies made in England. Still working on that.
Why specifically England?
Huh?
Why England?
I have a friend out there who I've sort of created a film company with.
Oh, okay.
And I went out there, but I got hurt. I got sidetracked. Yeah, I got major boo-boo. Oh, you can't see it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And then on my hands, it's horrible. So
Jeez,
because I think I'm 18, like on Cemetery Gates, I almost died twice because I'm stupid. I thought, there was a point where the monster jumps at a girl on a bicycle. Well, in the real world, the monster has to end up somewhere. So we have these pads, right? Yeah. So we're holding the pads, the monster hits, and I go flying back, and we're on the edge of a cliff in Griffith Park.
Oh my God.
And like literally, if I didn't pull myself up on the pad, I'd have tumbled to my death. And then one night it's raining, and we're at the cave in Griffith Park, the one that they made for Adventures of Robin Hood in the 30s. They actually drilled into the mountain to make that cave. It's also the cave that the Batmobile comes out of in the TV show. So yeah. Cemetery Gates, that's the home of Precious. And so it's raining and the cave's getting water in it. And it's, and I'm like walking outside debating whether we should, close up for the day. And this boulder comes rolling down. Literally, if I would have went like this, I would have touched it.
Jeez.
Like, just right in front. I go, yeah, we're going home. And I think the boulder is in the movie in one scene, but yeah, it's like, oh, it's adventures in filmmaking.
Yeah. Okay, so this is, I'm going to say, the last question. You earlier you mentioned, and like I remember before this interview, you mentioning really liking Bride of Frankenstein, which I also love that movie. One of the best movies ever. And the Frankenstein and the other Universal monster creature features, which Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein were directed by James Whale, the Queen of Hollywood.
Yeah. Gods and Monsters. Must see movie.
if you could work with any filmmaker, director, or special effects artist, or anything like that from history, including folks who have passed away, who would you want to work with, and what project would you like to make together?
I kind of already answered that. I don't
George
have a
Romero?
favorite. No, because I worked with him, so I that dream has been fulfilled.
Well, right. That's what I was guessing you meant by you
Yeah.
already answered.
No, I mean it's just like I think the person I'd like to work with hasn't been born yet
Oh, interesting.
because the Spielbergs and everybody else, they've had their time in the sun and they've furthered the industry, and I've been lucky. I've worked with quite a few people that were in that heyday of the 80s, and I've worked with a lot of like Dee Wallace and Reggie Bannister, and there's just so many people, genre people that I've worked with. And then going to the conventions, I get to sit next to David Naughton from American Werewolf, and have lunch with them. And so it's first and foremost, I'm a fan. So it's like, whoa, I still get excited by that stuff. So to work with somebody specifically, I would like to work on the original Nosferatu just to see if that guy really was a vampire. Because I think he was. Because Max Schreck, we never saw him again, did we?
Oh, I didn't know that was his last film.
No, that was his one and only film.
Oh, that was his only. Really?
Max Schreck, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure. Or he only did like one or two, but I think that's why Shadow of the Vampire with William Dafoe is the making of, is the story of the making of that movie. And in a roundabout way, because they pretend that he really is a vampire and he keeps eating the crew. And if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. But it was always rumored that he was really a vampire. And as far as I know, he didn't make any other films.
I just looked it up. He was in like 50 different movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that ruined that. Hey, but you can't believe the internet.
I gotta say,
Really? What's another one that he's done that maybe somebody would have saw him in?
The Pink Diamond, the Republic of Flackers, Ludwig II, King of Bavaria, the Love Hotel, the Tunnel.
So you've never heard of any of those movies, have you?
Heard of any of those movies?
And I haven't heard of those movies. So I think it's just a big conspiracy to hide the fact that he was a vampire. I'm going to stick with that.
All right.
But but yeah, that if you haven't seen Shadow of the Vampire, it's really good. It's one of the better making of movies. Stop eating the crew. It's the best line in the whole movie. Stop eating the crew. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm so lucky to make movies in the first place that to be selective, because there's so many good people. I have a list of people I won't work with again, and we'll run the names and the end credits. No, actually, except for, like I said, 2, maybe 3. It was all positive experiences.
Is there anyone on the list that you won't work with that you have not yet worked with? Like just by reputation or something like that?
Oh, no, because if that was true, I wouldn't work with anyone. Because you have to remember, crews gossip. And don't forget, the actor may get a job a year, but the electrician is going to work maybe 10 projects that month. And they talk at lunch. And so I'm always nice to the crew. And I always try to feed them well. I may not be able to pay them great, but I always make sure they eat right. And I naturally respect them. I'm kidding, but but yeah, you'd never want to screw up in front of the crew.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about the crew working on a lot more films than the actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some people that I consider very, very famous that no one's ever heard of, only because they've done, like my friend Mark. He Mark Richardson, sorry. He was the props master on Evolution for me, and I think Boo, but I'm not sure. Um, I should remember. But he's done like the Halloween movies. He actually did all the stuff for the Power Rangers TV show. So if you watch some of them, you'll see the duct tape holding some of the stuff together. Like he has great stories. That's somebody that
All
you definitely want to have on your show.
right.
He will fill you for hours just because he's been doing it most of his life, as a prop master. He's been in movies, he's in little, he's got quite a story. It's fun to sit and talk to him.
Cool.
So you might want to book him.
Yeah, if you can put us in contact.
Yeah, absolutely. I
All
can do
right.
that. Owes
Sweet.
me a favor. No. Uh,
Well, on that note, thank you so much for being my first ever guest on this
oh,
new.
it's my honor.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
let you know when this episode goes up.
Yeah.
Eh.
I'll promote it for you, but I don't even remember what I said.
Fair enough.
Thank God for the happy pills. Painkillers. Ugh.
Oof. Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
feeling at that.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. All right. Goodbye.
Later.
Later.
And cut. That's it. Ugh.